back to the gym yet. I must admit, I keep finding excuses not to do it. Not a fear of catching COVID, rather the idea of trying to get back to the level of activity I was at when the doors shut. I know it's lazy, but, well, like me, I know that many of my friends who had great plans of what they would do once doors were open have been slow to take advantage. I think it's like many things that we want or intend. When we're denied the ability to do something, it becomes irresistible. But once the option is there, the urgency disappears and it becomes just one more goal to be weighed against all the others. Then things like cost and time and all sorts of other considerations come into play. Telling someone that they cannot do something or have something or go somewhere is the surest way to make them want to do it. There's nothing more provoking than hearing a no. It doesn't matter if it was something you really wanted to do or get or have. It's being told that the choice has been taken away that's so irritating. And we have been denied access to so much for so long that the freedoms of level 3 feels like Christmas. All the things to do and places to go. Well, I have been out on a patio for a cheese and wine sampler, had dinner with a friend and her family in a gorgeous garden that was her COVID project. I've done a bit of shopping, but nothing like the list of things I want or need. So, amazingly, things haven't changed that much in terms of what I'm doing. But the sense of being able to do just about anything that I want to do, well, it's just delicious. But just because I can doesn't mean I any longer want to. Some of the changes mandated by COVID have become comfortable and familiar. I've managed to set up my home office to perfectly meet the needs of my responsibilities with St. Monica's, and the internet gives me access to all the research and references of the whole wide world. My garden calls to me each afternoon. Even though I could be elsewhere, it's where I really want to be. Talking to people in person is lovely, but it's easier to Zoom than drive across town. And online trivia games every Tuesday have become a family tradition. COVID has also been a very useful excuse for not doing things one didn't want to do. Because as one noted, COVID has ensured that sometimes it takes me all day to get nothing done. Zoom meetings replacing in person have lots of advantages. No travel time, no dressing up, no socializing with those with whom you have little in common, no compulsory sharing of endless donuts and cookies, which my waistline does not need. Instead, we get right down to business, get the work done, and with a prayer, the meeting is over and one is off to the next project. COVID eliminated finding excuses for not attending parties or events or dinners or anything else one would like to avoid. And it isn't a lie. It isn't rude. And you don't have to invite anyone back in the usual tit for tat. One has had time to consider what really is enjoyable and missed and what could quite happily disappear from one's social calendar. But all good things and bad come to an end. And so we poke our heads out of our cocoon and discover the new landscape that we're creating. Polls show many have become very attached to working from home and are looking for accommodations to at least continue their part-time. Not so much from a fear of COVID, but a desire to avoid the rat race of commuting and the great cost savings of no parking or gas or transit bills, lunch from the fridge rather than the restaurant, casual clothing and no cleaners bills, and so many more hours for self and family. And restaurant and shop owners are warning that they are having trouble getting workers to come back or finding new employees. Is this a temporary or a permanent thing? Some of my parishioners want to know if everyone has had 2 shots before returning to church. Others have grown very fond of watching services on TV and are content to continue to do so. Others like my thoughts and feel they make more sense than my sermons. They'd be happy to continue with that alone. I do wonder how many will be in attendance when the doors to St. Monica's reopen in September. One very positive thing that came out of the lockdown, though, has been the Zooming of funerals. For those living at a distance, it's been a real blessing. For those who have faced a death alone, there was comfort in knowing others cared and shared from afar. Although nothing replaces a hand being held, arms enfolding, or a shoulder to cry on. So moving to level 3 is a very real blessing for them. Wandering the streets reveals so many boarded up shops, and for rent signs are to be found everywhere. 25,000 businesses have closed due to COVID. What will happen now? Will new entrepreneurs appear with drive and dreams? Will help be found for the owners who lost their businesses to restart? Will those downtown office spaces around Bay and King be reoccupied? On the other hand, traffic is back. More stop and go than ever. So many lanes have been deleted and then further narrowed for the patios. Will the avid bikers continue with the weather when the weather turns cold and the snow falls? Or will City Hall decide to denote some bike lanes as good weather lanes, closed on major routes during the winter season, so that the traffic can move once most bikers return to their cars and buses? I wonder. No one likes to be told what they can or cannot do, but left on our own, most of us can work out accommodations that serve everyone well. A recent example: people seem to have worked out their own protocols of mask wearing, offering to wear one if it would make others more comfortable, and assuring others of one's status as more than 14 days past the second shot. Frequently, you see one masked and one unmasked in a pair walking and talking contentedly together. Those who want to step aside as the unmasked pass unremarked, and the frictions have been greatly reduced. With the warm weather, many get-togethers are taking place with a combination of indoor-outdoor options. Those comfortable indoors wander in and out. Those still cautious enjoy the sunshine and gossip on the deck, all accommodated and all together at the distance of their choosing. People want to protect themselves and others, but that doesn't mean that all weigh risks in the same manner. When the government issues a one-size-fits-all order, there's bound to be friction. Accountability is one thing that most can understand. But when politicians and government officials and editorial writers repeatedly say no and tell us how they interpret the finer points of that accountability, it acts as a provocation. We need to trust the good intentions of our neighbors rather than acting as the COVID cops. But now that we're hopefully leaving much of this behind, we have the opportunity of choosing and sharing and helping. And if we've learned anything over this period, it's the value of people talking to each other and not dictating to others. We need to find accommodations in this new land where we take our time to work things out, considering all the consequences, the victors and the victims of our decisions. We need to hear all the voices and apply equally the notion of fairness to all. We need to stop blaming so much and start understanding more. And we need to use the same yardsticks on our decisions. For example, I cannot understand why throwing paint at a mosque or a synagogue is a hate crime, but burning down a church is not a hate crime. And we've never accepted the reasons for hatred as an adequate defense in the past. I cannot understand why some people with connections get one set of travel rules and the rest of us are a lesser breed. And I really don't understand how government policy as to what works and what doesn't keeps changing with no adequate explanation. But I guess it was ever thus. But does it need to stay that way? Now that ordinary people, not just scaremongers and those with agendas and woke folk, are out and about, their voices need to be heard. Although the reluctance of many to come forward is reflected in a frightening description by Candace Malcolm of the ordeal she believes is faced by those who speak up against the online cancel culture. When the mob confronts you, keep your mouth shut, brace for impact, and pray for minimal damage. Well, what that amounts to is we must each stiffen our backbones and risk the ridicule and opposition and braying that greets those who put forward a differing opinion or accept the voices of those who bray. We cannot allow the evil of division to be the legacy of COVID. Society and democracy require differing opinions. Indeed, offensive and foolish voices need to be heard. And only when all voices are heard can a sound decision be made. And our new world needs that examination and deciding in many arenas today. As we emerge from the battle against COVID, we cannot allow the loudest voice to drown out all the others. Freedom of speech is more than a lovely thought. It's an essential element in the freedom of a nation. Of all the freedoms, it is the most feared by the dictator and the most cherished by the free. The time of being told no to engaging in activities beyond our bubble is over. The time to do something is upon us. As a responsible member of society, you need to abandon the delights of your garden and go forth to engage in the healing circle that is needed to draw us all together. One does not have to agree with another to be polite, to engage in debate and discussion and conversation. But there are forces that are dividing our nation, which has always taken great pride in our diversity and our unity. We need to see the common humanity of each person we encounter, and not the color of their skin or the land of their DNA or their politics, religion, sex, family, or education. We need to value each and every person we encounter, for each possesses an immortal soul and is a beloved child of God. So we are out of no and into go. Get ready, get set, and get going. It's time to leave the cocoon and re-engage in the world and where it is going. Your input and my input and the input of every other Canadian is valuable and needed. But we need to get together and greet each other with respect and speak to each other in inside voices and hold each other in great regard. If we are to move forward into the broad and sunlit uplands, we need to move forward together. A family, like a nation, divided will fail, and failure should never be an option for our great land of Canada. So whether you grab your banjo and joining hands sing Kumbaya or kneel together in prayer, let us rise together and do our best, for that is exactly all that God expects of us. So may it be. Amen. The time has come for action, and it's always best to say a prayer for good intentions and good deeds and good outcomes as you launch on your crusade. My prayer for all of you comes from Thomas More. I will pray for you, and you will pray for me, and we will meet merrily in heaven, hopefully having done our best and the outcomes being a blessing for all.